We will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Call to order. That's we did. Roll call. Here. Here.
I don't hear anything.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I don't
Can't hear us?
No, I can't hear Danielle.
Can't hear Danielle.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
Okay, well, okay, so we'll have Mike Donellan here,
Here.
present.
Present.
Judy Schulte,
Present.
Gina Muzzarelli,
Here.
and Chris Jonassy.
Here.
Everyone is here. We have the meeting minutes from January 14th, 2020. Any comments, corrections?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All right, that works. Thank you. Chris made the motion, Mike second. We haven't had any communications or notices that we need to be aware of. So new business then would be the ORV park variance request regarding the temporary gravel parking lot. And this is where I'm showing my age. So I'm a little confused on this topic because I thought we had gone down the path where we said because the ORV park didn't want to put permanent structures in until they had sort of established a bit of a baseline, that they were just going to look at a special use permit versus trying to do site approval. So I'm not quite sure what we're doing here on this. Are we just saying that you want to go forward and we know our ordinance requires a paved surface? So you're just looking for a 1-year variance for that? Or who's going to speak to what we're doing here?
Zach will start out.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So back in February at the Planning Commission meeting, we had 2 items on the agenda. One was the special use permit that you mentioned. So that was for 1 year to get us through operations for 1 year, including this fall. And then we also got deferred to ZBA because we want our site plan to have that final gravel parking lot in the Dixie ledge area, which is the parking lot at the corner of Shields and Dixie. So we know our final future parking lot will be that HMA gravel road mix, and that's something we do want to move forward with. So we know that was not conforming to your ordinances. So that's what we're up here for approval today.
So that I understand, because unfortunately, Zach, there was a little bit of a delay in what you were saying. So I'm not sure I caught all of it, but the variance you're requesting is a permanent go forward, not just you're planning on coming back and paving this at a later date?
Correct. A permanent parking lot. That would be that gravel road HMA asphalt milling mix for the Dixie ledge area.
And what is
which is the parking lot that's you see on sheet 17 and 18 of your plan set.
Yes. And why are you asking for that versus paving pursuant to our ordinance?
So through our research and talking with other different ORV parks around the country, we found that that gravel base or that non-asphalt base for parking helps address sound control, water infiltration on the site. It allows the owner to be flexible with the layout of the parking as we kind of learn how operations work over the next few years. And then it also connects also as a safety measure for keeping ORV vehicles slower through the parking area.
And I apologize because I wasn't here in February. I mean, was this discussed in the February planning meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
It was. And so their comments were, well, if you do that, you're going to need to go to the BZA and get a variance. Am I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they denied our site plan approval and deferred us to this meeting. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, you know, and I'll just give you a little bit of history and my thoughts. As we looked at various businesses up and down Dixie Highway, River Rock, the Groveland Bar Bottoms Up, is that what it's called? You know, we've had requests for folks to do gravel, and we've pushed and said, no, we want paved. And I'm struggling with giving a variance on Dixie Highway, particularly as we're looking, you know, to do sort of a Dixie Highway overlay, sort of a corridor where we're trying to look at development, that we would allow for gravel here. We have little spots where there's one spot, I think it's Power Sports or something, and it's kind of in the back, and it wasn't really up front. But where the spot where you're looking at is arguably it's possibly visible. But you know, when we first started discussing this, I was under the assumption that you were looking to do just sort of a temporary till we got, you know, your operations kind of better understood and how you wanted to move traffic through that area. But I myself, and based on kind of the history that we've had in this township up and down Dixie, would not be in favor of just granting a variance. I could, you know, entertain maybe a 1 year or possibly a 2 year, you know, as we're trying to work things out with the ORV park, because we really do want to work with you guys. We think this is a great addition to our township. And we're not trying to, you know, make you jump through hoops, but I think we need to be fair to the other businesses up and down Dixie and the discussions and the decisions that we've had with them. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents. I'll open it up to other members and see, you know, what their thoughts are.
Just
Ben?
so I'm sorry, Mike, but just so
Go ahead,
I'm clear, I'm looking at the page 17 of the site plan, and this is the one with the circular drive. It looks like, is that correct?
Yes.
It's right on Dixie.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And the variance is that would always be
The
Gravel.
HCMA millings.
okay. Because I looking through all of it, I was like, okay, because it looks like there's a couple different parking lots here.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can go through the sheets really quick just so you're clear on it. So we're gonna operate the park in the winter. I mean, in the summer with the entrance being at Mount Holly. So there's a layout you'll see on there, and that's on page 12. You'll see our temporary layout for Mount Holly parking. There's an access road that now connects the Mount Holly parking lot to the Dixie Ledge parking lot, which you see on sheet 17 and 18. And then on sheet 20, you can kind of see the overall of the 17 and 18. That's the area that we're talking about today. We're calling it Dixie Ledge. So that's the one that we'll be using in the winter when Mount Holly will be full for skiing, obviously. So that's the one that will have the frontage along Dixie, but we'll have a large berm with plantings along it. So it'll be really hidden from kind of Dixie Highway. And I think that was some of the concern that we heard at the Planning Commission meeting in February. So we've tried to address through your Dixie corridor standards, getting that berm implemented so we don't have those issues along there, and keeping it kind of non-visible, I guess, as a parking lot from Dixie Highway.
So
Mike, you had comments?
Yeah, I did. And and I'm kind of at a crossroads here because I'm going to speak right now on behalf of the county versus the BZA. And one of the hardships too that we have out there too is the different tire types that we have on these ORVs, from knobby tires, sticky tires, the adverse impacts of the pavements when they're driving over them. So those the gravel does impact the ORVs, and that's part of the reason why we're requesting the HMA growings. The actual pavement has more flexibility in there. I too, now I'm going to speak in behalf of as a Groveland Township resident. I too, want the Dixie corridor. Who's the? Understand and respect the Dixie corridor and its requirements for the pavements in the parking lots. Being a recreational land and stuff, a lot of our roads are gravel and stuff in the parks, but and I get that, but I also respect the Dixie corridor as well. And we've tried to accommodate some of that too from a county standpoint with doing earthwork to lower that parking lot to minimize impact with vehicles and sound attenuation and things like that too. And to Zach's point earlier on the sound attenuation with the tires, gravel is much quieter than the pavement itself, especially with all the different tire types that we're dealing with. So again, I'm at a quandary crossroads. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on the gravel and the different tire types that we're going to be addressing out there. So,
in terms of that, Mike, I see that, I saw that Mount Holly that's going to be your summer parking lot. Now, is that the millings or is that paved?
That's pavement, but the roads coming from the parking lot to the Dixie Ledge area will be, well, we're proposing the HMA millings.
So, Mike, my understanding of that parking area, and so correct me if I'm wrong, was that really was not a traffic area for the off-road vehicles as much as you're going to drive up and unload your vehicle and then take it into the park. So when we're referring to the noise levels on that surface, it's really just an unloading and loading. It's not as if you have traffic on it. Is that correct?
You're still going to have ORV traffic if they're unloading and getting into the park. So, and you're going to have trucks and trailers going back and forth. So there is some traffic there, Jenny.
Okay.
And just for the record too, I will be abstaining from the vote tonight because I
So
feel that it's conflict for having both. So anyways, just wanted to let you know.
So Bob had asked a question as to the parking lot at Silver Lake, the dunes, if that was gravel.
Yes. Every ORV park we've seen across the country and we talked to, they've all are some type of non-asphalt base or gravel, road gravel, HMA millings, as you will. Any to that.
And for all of those parks, have you had to seek a variance in any of those jurisdictions? Were there requirements for pavement and then you had to seek a variance?
I'm not sure on the process that they went through. I'm not sure if like the R1, because typically like at our park standard at our our passive recreation like trail parks, we all have gravel parking lots. So I'm not sure what their process was exactly. No.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with the other parks, so I'm literally just asking questions. I view our park to be a little bit different, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, in that, we have a 4-lane highway this is coming off of, and it's adjacent to an expressway. We're not out in, a real rural area. Is that correct assumption on my part, that we're a little more in a high traffic urban type setting with the 4-lane Dixie highway than other facilities?
I mean, like at Independence Oaks off Sashbaugh Road in Oak Hill, we have a gravel parking lot for the Independence North area. So that's
And we visited some ORV parks out in Iowa, Jenny, that were off of highways and stuff like that too as well. So, you know, I don't know if you can characterize our area as different from other areas too, but you know, I know those areas were gravel parking lots as well. And we went to some out in Iowa and on our way back from Iowa. So
Now, is it just a minute, Gina, is it my understanding that I'm correct that this parking lot will not be accessible from Dixie Highway? That the access to the parking lot is off of Shields?
There's
Correct.
2 access routes, one through Mount Holly through that road that Mike mentioned, and then there is there's an opportunity for exit entrance off Shields Road. Yes.
And Shield Road is gravel currently?
Yes.
Okay.
That was pretty much my comment. What is the material that Shields Road is going to be? Because that is where the entrance and the exit is, not on Dixie. And I think that kind of changes the dynamic, because you're not coming right off the highway. So what are our perimeters for Shields Road? Is there,
Shields is gravel.
Shields is gravel and we're not
and
proposing
it'll
to
stay that way because it's
the
still a
public
county
road.
right?
It's a public road, Gina.
Right.
Public road. It's
Right.
gravel. I can assure you the road commission ain't putting any money in that truck.
I can't hear him.
I
So
can't hear
Bob
Bob.
said that Shields Road for about 1/10 of a mile is a public road, and
Right.
he can guarantee us that the county will not put any money in it, so it will stay gravel.
Right. Right.
So
Okay.
add one more thing regarding the berm along Dixie. We did get some comments about, people seeing into a big area of cars parked. So the plans show that the berm will be built and the parking lot will be lowered a bit. So we're trying to minimize that view into the park, just seeing all the cars along the road, to kind of address what your concern was.
How tall is the berm? I mean, are you looking? And I mean, what's the difference in elevation with, your berm and your Dixie and then the parking lot?
Yeah, let me throw up the profile sheet. Justin, do you have that available right quicker than I could get to it?
Yeah, I have it up on my computer here. The elevation difference from the parking lot grade to the top of the berm, which is at the property line of basically the public right-of-way, area there. We range from, 4 to 6 feet on average in height, and then some areas with some possible use of some retaining wall blocks, we might even be upwards of 7 feet or so. That's the elevation difference from the parking lot to the property line. And then from the property line to Dixie Highway, it's pretty level, or they're about the same elevation. There's a little bit of height. The property line's a little bit higher than Dixie Highway in some spots, not by much, but you have a county road ditch that goes, that's in between the public right-of-way line and Dixie Highway. So they'll have that dip down, they'll come back up and up to our berm, then down again into the parking lot.
So we're really working to lower the parking lot more than build the berm up, because we don't really have the room to build the berm up right along the right to the road.
So, listening to what,
Look, 1 minute, just Bob wants to say something.
Would help the flexibility further. And I think there was some discussion originally, gravel parking lot would be a little bit easier, because if these guys go out and blow up the machine like they do up at Silver Lake, I think it's a little easier to clean it up when it's on a gravel spot instead of running all over black. I think that's part of it.
So Bob's comments were that, part of the lowering, the rationale for lowering the parking lot will, it's thought to help with noise abatement also by getting it lower. And then secondly, his understanding is that with vehicle mishaps, oil leaks, et cetera, it's easier to clean that up on a gravel surface than it would be on a paved surface or a solid surface.
Yeah, from a maintenance standpoint, it'll be much easier for us to maintain and keep at a higher quality than the paved parking lot in an ORV park for sure.
So, okay, my 2 cents and thoughts in terms of everything. First off, I understand the millings and the purpose there. I guess what I'm going through my mind is any kind of mention is that, this is Dixie Highway, this is the byway. We are trying to keep some conformity, some consistency there. So I don't know what this would entail. I don't know if this is possible. I don't know if this is something that we can require, but what about maybe if we're going to do something like this and allow the gravel or the millings, that we do some kind of different, an actual retaining wall of some kind that will help hide, because right now from what you're explaining, if you're on Dixie, you're still going to see the tops of those cars, and trucks, even though they're going to be down, 4 to 6 feet, you're still going to see all those cars. So if you're looking for sound abatement and aesthetics, is putting up some kind of a retaining wall or something, would that be an option? And I see though, at the same time, it looks like you have trees and stuff planted along the top of that berm. Is that?
Yeah, we took a look at your Dixie corridor standards for like berm design. So we're trying to mimic that and use the correct plant material to
Okay.
that look that you guys are speccing in your books.
And might I add too, we're trying to open up, we want some views into the site so you can see across the site, so that, like Mount Magna's and the hills inside there, we want to be able to kind of like entice people. Oh, there's the ORV park. So we don't want to completely close off that area, but increasing landscaping along there if we had to. That could be a possibility too, to help with sound, to help with visual characteristics and stuff. So.
So I drove out there to take a look at it today. My first question after listening to what you have to say, Zach, is where it is now, you're talking about lowering it from there?
Yeah, the plan should be lowering it to help with that visual and the sound and all the things we've been discussing, yes.
Okay, and then I was kind of surprised. I thought it was small. I'm just going to say that, thinking, but I guess I hadn't really taken into factor the Mount Holly parking. How many vehicles do you think can fit in that space?
For the Dixie Ledge area?
Yep.
Let me, it's on the plans. Let me pull it up.
There's a total of 193 spaces.
For truck size?
Various sizes.
Sizes of vehicles,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Just so you're aware, with it lowering too, part of it solves the earthwork issue as well, because there's a narrow spot towards Mount Holly that really needs to extend out a little further, Gina.
Okay.
So by lowering it, we create the fill to go out as well, to widen that area out in order to get that. So.
Okay.
And Gina, those were asphalt millings on that parking lot that you saw. So I think it does a really nice job compaction wise. It's pretty good as a hardscape, I think.
Judy has a question.
If Judy's speaking, we don't hear anything.
Yeah, she's speaking. Maybe get in front and see.
Okay, I'm gonna try here. If this original variance request was for 1 year, if you're going to be possibly putting in buildings or other structures, what would happen if you had a variance request for 1 year and then had the ability to come back, or at that time, it would be determined if you had to go ahead and pave it, or if it could be left as strictly a gravel project?
We have the special use permit right now for 1 year, so for some reason we needed to reapply for that for next year, we could do that as well. I guess I didn't understand the question regarding the buildings.
Judy, most likely, to get a 1 year acceptance of this, I think is your question. Most likely, we're not going to be building the permanent parking area until a year from now, probably.
Okay.
Only because of the fact that, we're working with the state on funding and all that other stuff. So realistically, an approval of a
That's not
variance for
feasible,
a year wouldn't do much for us right
Okay.
now. And
Okay,
so
that's not feasible.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I wanna continue on that because I'm just not in favor of granting a permanent variance here. And so, as Judy was exploring options, I'd like to explore options and then I'm happy if other members say, no, you're good with this and you want to approve it, that's fine. But I'm just saying I'm not in favor of it. When we look at what we're trying to do along Dixie Highway, we're gonna have some tough standards and we're gonna have to stick to them if we want to get the outcome along this byway, this corridor that we're looking at. And so while I want to work with the ORV park, and I can see where we give a variance, but for a long term, having gravel in that as a parking surface up near Dixie Highway, whether it's visible or you've lowered it, I'm not in favor of that. So if other members are, and that's fine. But if you feel like I do, then I'd like to see if we could explore some other options for a temporary. Maybe we do a 2-year temporary, and that gives you a time to figure out what you're going to do with the park. But I myself am not in favor of just granting a permanent variance.
And I understand that, and I'm trying. I'm also looking at it. I mean, this is specifically for an ORV park, right? Off-road vehicle park. What are they going to be driving on? Okay, so I guess there's a part of me that says, you know what? I mean, this is for an ORV park. They're going to be driving on the gravel. It's a gravel course anyway. I can see that, but I understand, and I don't think, and I could be completely off, Jenny, and maybe this is what you're thinking, is that I don't think when it's all said and done, it's going to be with the millings, it's going to be that much of a huge difference. And I could be completely wrong, but based on what I've seen with some of these millings, if they're done correctly, it's pretty close to a paved lot, and in some cases, it's better than a paved lot. So, in terms of maybe going forward, is it possible, you're saying, Jenny, you're saying 2 years, and Zach and Mike, you're saying, it's going to be at least a year anyway before you really feel like you're into operations. Is that relative?
Well, yeah, due to I hate to blame COVID on things, but it's kind of killed our process in the whole thing, because right now we were anticipating that we would have been open right now, and we would be probably trying to coordinate a construction schedule for getting this parking lot in and everything right now, but we're not. We're behind schedule, and given operations, given all that stuff, we're going to be hard pressed to get it, squeezed in the spring. So I'm really being realistic when I say the fall is when construction could really happen out there. And that's, again, coordinating with the operations. Now, you know, I don't mind revisiting this, Jenny, if we had to, you know, a couple of years from now, and look at the millings that we're using on the Dixie Ledge and see if that's an acceptable means of pavement for the ORV park, and come back and be specific in regards to that, if that's the case. I think the millings are, to Chris's point, a lot stronger than, you know, say a loose 23A gravel or, you know, a crushed limestone. It locks up pretty tightly and it makes a good paved surface. And we actually are anticipating painting some of it on an occasion to keep, you know, lane delineation and things along that lines. So, you know, I guess I see your points. I understand the points. Maybe we experiment with this HMA and look at that and see if that's an acceptable means to the township, and come back in a couple of years and say, here's what we're going to top it with. And, you know, at that point, maybe that's a different story. I don't know.
Ina?
And no matter what the surface is, it's still going to be lower and the berm's still going to be present with the plantings, correct?
Correct.
Would it be helpful if I could share some of the photos of the asphalt millings to see how they look, if you'd like, or?
Not for me. I mean, if I would propose, here's what I would propose, that we do a 2-year variance. And then we can physically go out, we can look at it, we can get an assessment for it. And if we feel we need to do a permanent, you know, I think we could do that. But I'm just, without understanding, because I'm concerned about not so much this and its use, but we're setting up a Dixie corridor, and we're trying to set, you know, specific standards so that we have an appearance here. And I'm not willing, you know, right out of the box here to grant a variance like this, when we've had other business owners that have found it burdensome to comply with this ordinance, but we've enforced it. So I wanna work with the ORV park, but I would advocate a 2-year temporary variance to come back, because you've got a special use permit anyway, right? You're going to be coming back, so
Right.
that's where I would shake out on this.
Could we could we go, Jenny, just to give them that opportunity, you know, getting started, getting some of the landscaping and everything going? Could we go a 3-year one, just to give them that extra year in case, so we can see what it looks like?
Well, you know, I in a way, and I'll be honest, it's kind of a little arbitrary when you say, well, 2 years or 3 years, you know. I'm doing 2 years. I really want 1, but I understand Mike's, you know, I understand Mike's position of COVID and things are running late. You know, they're going to be coming back with a special use permit in 1 year. So I'd rather just do 2, because at some point you got to make a decision, right? And you can't just say, well, we'll do it temporary. Because I'm willing to give it a try, and so go with a 2-year. That's just my thoughts.
And even with a year's time, you're going to have an idea of how it's working for us. We'll get feedback from the township for sure if there's an issue. You'll know how the surface works. You know, what does the berm look like? Are the plants surviving? You know, do we need a retaining wall? All those things can be worked out in 2 years, I think.
Okay.
So with the direction
So
on
yeah, I would
RDC,
support. Pardon?
I said, so our direction would be, when we come back for special use, we would reference this meeting and request a 2-year extension on the special use permit.
No, so, and I apologize, I wasn't here in February, but I'm making the assumption that, and I don't know, Gina, if you were in the meeting, who was there, but.
That was planning. No, I do BZA.
That was planning.
You do BZA, who does planning? Who's
Yeah.
on planning?
That would be a planning decision.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
planning.
yeah, no, I'm just wondering if.
But Jim is on the
Jim?
planning.
Okay,
Mhm.
so, but my assumption is they gave you a 1-year use permit. And so you'll come back in February of 21. that true?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so at that point, you're going to say you've been granted a special use permit through September of 2022. And so when you go through for that use permit, you're going to say you've got another year and a half on the gravel. And at that point, then, you know, and I would say even hopefully, well, see, you know, next February is going to be kind of hard. You're not going to have much use on it, right? So you're going to have to go another year with the planning commission before anybody has any experience with your surface. I don't know if that answers your question, but you will reference this, and we're going to overlap a little bit. But when you come to the planning commission, you'll be covered. You'll have another year and a half variance. Mike.
And if I'm correct too, this, even with the 2-year approval from BZA, even we can still move forward with the site plan review of the permanent parking area and all of that stuff. So it's just basically when we get that parking lot, the earthwork done, all that stuff, the gravel in, then we come back after a year's worth of, let's just hypothetically say after a year's worth of using it, then we would be looking for the ZBA approval on that surfacing, and that'd be yes or no. And then we would have to plan for the paving of it. So if that's enough, hopefully it's a yes, but if that's enough, so.
Right. So it allows you to go forward, but it doesn't lock us in yet until we get some experience.
Correct.
Zach, is that?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not preferred, but at least, you know, you
No,
understand where we're coming from?
Yep, understood.
Okay.
For the most part, it's not going to change what your plans are now.
No, I mean, we'll see. We're going to be opening on the 17th to the public, so we'll get some feedback hopefully this year. And then we're still, I don't know how much we're going to be open this winter. That's still in debate. So we'll get some more information, this spring. So, but we'll plan to come back to the planning commission then.
I think, Melissa, operationally, we're what, weekends?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So we are opening on September 17th, which was just mentioned. That's a Thursday. So that first weekend that we open will be Thursday through Sunday. And then after that, we're going down to just Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through the end of November for sure. We're going to reassess in kind of late October, early November, and see what our staffing looks like, what our use looks like, and figure out through the winter if we can stay open, and if so, what those days look like. And if I just could really quick, I just want to make sure everyone is aware of the ribbon cutting that's this Friday out at the park. It's starting at 3 o'clock. And then the press conference portion of that is at 4:30. We have to keep it under 100 due to the governor's orders, and we are very close to that. But if there's anyone from the township who wants to come who has not RSVP'd, let Mike know, or give me a buzz or whatever, and we'll get you on the list for that. But we're very excited about it.
I'll give up my spot so you can go out there, Jenny.
You're such a good guy.
Well then, if I'm understanding everything and from where we're at, Jenny, are we looking for a motion then for a 2-year special use permit?
For a variance.
For a variance, okay. Then I'll make the motion for a 2-year special use variance, or a variance for
A temporary gravel parking lot.
temporary gravel, the millings, the HCMA, is that?
HMA.
HMA, the HMA millings for the ORV park.
I'll support that.
Seconds. You get that?
And Danielle, if you can clean up just a little bit, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We will, because we want to make sure that we identify the surface that's going to be used, not
Right.
gravel, but the milling. So Danielle will get that in a minute. So with that, and just so that you can hear, I'll do the roll call vote. So Gina,
Yes.
Michael,
Same.
Chris,
Yes.
Judy, Jenny, yes. Motion passes. We have a 2-year variance regarding the ordinance for a paved surface in that area. All right?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, guys. Really appreciate you working with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
With that, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting if there's nothing else. All right, meeting
Have a good
adjourned.
evening.
I didn't take a motion, but they moved and seconded it.
Yeah.
I'll motion it. I'm good at the
Second.
motion. I'll motion it.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. We'll do it. Good night, guys. I moved it and Judy seconded it. We'll do it that way.